War Ragnarok is an action-adventure video game developed by Santa Monica Studio and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was released worldwide on November 9, 2022, for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, marking the first cross-gen release in the God of War series. It is the 9th installment in the series, the 9th chronologically, and the sequel to 2018's God of War. Based on Norse mythology, the game is set in ancient Scandinavia and features series protagonist Kratos and his teenage son Atreus. Serving as the finale to the Norse era of the series, the game covers Ragnarok, the eschatological event which is central to Norse mythology and was foretold to happen in the previous game after Kratos killed the Æsir god Baldur. Originally slated for a 2021 release, the game was delayed in part due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on development and Kratos actor Christopher Judge's health problems in August 2019. Prior to its delay, it won awards for Most Wanted Game and Most Anticipated Game from the 2020 Golden Joystick Awards and PlayStation Blog Awards, respectively, and many gaming journalists and websites had regarded the sequel as one of their most anticipated games. Ragnarok garnered universal acclaim from critics. Gameplay. God of War Ragnarok is a third-person action-adventure video game. It features an over-the-shoulder free camera, while cinematographically, the game is presented in a continuous shot, with no camera cuts or loading screens. The gameplay is similar to the previous installment, God of War, and like that game, it is single-player only. Throughout the game, players battle Norse mythological foes, with more enemy types than in the previous game, and the developers also added more mini-bosses to give the game more variety. The player primarily controls the character Kratos in combo-based combat and puzzle game elements. Kratos' main weapons are a magical battle axe called the Leviathan Axe, and his signature double-chained blades, the Blades of Chaos. He also has a shield, formerly called the Guardian Shield in the previous game. Kratos also utilizes hand-to-hand combat. The Leviathan Axe is infused with ice elemental magic. It can be thrown at enemies and magically summoned back to his hand, similar to Thor's hammer Mjolnir. The weapon can also be thrown at environmental objects to trigger a damaging explosion, and freeze objects and some enemies in place for puzzle solving until resummoned. The Blades of Chaos, infused with fire elemental magic, are a pair of blades attached to chains that can be swung around in various maneuvers. A new mechanic for Ragnarok is that the blades can also be used like a grappling hook to traverse over chasms. They can also be used to pick up and hurl objects at enemies. Both weapons have standard light and heavy attacks. They can be upgraded with runes to allow for magical runic attacks, with slots for a light and heavy magical attack, providing players with a variety of options for their own play style. The triangle button on the controller was also changed for Ragnarok. In the previous game, the button was used to summon Kratos' axe back to his hand, but if he already had the axe, nothing happened. Now, the button allows the player to use weapon signature moves to unleash a powerful elemental attack depending on the weapon equipped. If on a higher ledge, the player can leap down to perform a powerful attack on enemies below. In the previous game, the shield was only used for blocking and could perform a minor parry attack. For Ragnarok, the shield was revamped for more versatility. There are different shields that can be obtained. They can be used offensively or defensively depending on which shield is equipped. Smaller shields are for parrying, while larger ones are more defensive. For example, the Dauntless shield has a parry attack that, when triggered correctly, Kratos smashes the shield into a foe that tosses and stuns enemies. Dissimilarly, the Stonewall shield is more defensive-based. Guarding with the Stonewall shield raises its kinetic energy, and once it is fully charged, the player can slam the shield into the ground, emitting a large wave of energy that knocks back enemies. Other shields with different abilities can be acquired throughout the game. When not in use, the shield folds up and appears like a vambrace on Kratos' left forearm. Like the previous game, while the player plays as Kratos, Atreus provides assistance through artificial intelligence, helping in combat, traversal, exploration, and puzzle solving. The player can passively control Atreus by dictating where he fires his arrows with his talon bow, either in combat or for puzzle solving, as well as what magical spectral animals he can summon to further assist with combat. Additionally, Atreus' combat was updated to reflect his character's growth. In the previous game, Atreus was watching Kratos and learning how to fight, while in this game, Atreus has matured. He has longer chained combos, may initiate a fight before Kratos, and his magical abilities were expanded. For the first time in the series, the player can play entirely as a character other than Kratos, not including Ascension's multiplayer. During some story missions when Atreus goes off on his own without Kratos, the player takes full control of Atreus. His gameplay is similar to Kratos in that he has close-range combat by hitting enemies with his bow, and he has long-range attacks by using his bow to shoot arrows. Additionally, he has special magical arrows, can create a shield from magic, and can summon magical spectral animals to assist in combat. Atreus also has his own rage ability in which he transforms into a wolf to deal greater damage. During these missions, Atreus typically has another character accompanying him, and the player can passively control this character just as they do with Atreus when playing as Kratos. The game retains the role-playing video game elements of the 2018 installment. Throughout the game, players find crafting resources to create new or upgrade existing armor with better perks. Ragnarok adds armor transmogrification, which allows the player to change the appearance of their equipped armor to any other acquired armor without losing any of the equipped armor's stats. Ragnarok has over 70 accessibility options. The game's user interface system was redesigned to allow for more flexibility and readability, and more customization options for combat and interaction systems were also added. All accessibility features from the 2018 installment were retained but also expanded upon to allow players to adjust the gameplay to suit their own play style and needs. Setting. Like the 2018 installment, Ragnarok is set in the world of Norse mythology but expands upon the previous game's narrative, with an even greater focus on exploration and open-world gameplay. While the previous game allowed the player to access 6 of the 9 realms of Norse mythology, Ragnarok's expanded focus sees the player exploring each of the 9 realms, including the new additions of Svartalfheim, the industrial abode of the dwarfs, Vanaheim, the lush home of the Varni gods, and Asgard, the golden land of the Æsir gods. Midgard, the primary realm of the 2018 installment, is heavily featured but is now a frigid wasteland, dramatically changed by Fimbulwinter, a 3-year-long winter that began upon the conclusion of the previous game. The Lake of the Nine, previously navigable by means of a boat in the previous game, is now frozen over. Svartalfheim is explorable to the same degree as Midgard was in the previous game. Alfheim, Helheim, and Niflheim all return, with an expanded focus and character exploration. Plot. Returning home from a hunting trip, following a brief ambush by Freya, Atreus and Kratos find their wolf Fenrir in his final moments. After Fenrir passes away, Atreus transforms into a bear and briefly battles his father before coming back to his senses, having begun practicing giant magic. Afterwards, Kratos and Atreus are visited by Odin and Thor, who propose to leave Kratos' family alone if Atreus abandons his search for Tyr. Kratos refuses the proposal and he and Thor duel each other to a stalemate. Returning home with the aid of the dwarf Sindri and Brock, Kratos and Atreus take refuge within the World Tree. Atreus later admits that he had been searching for Tyr in secret, against Kratos' wishes, eventually finding a potential clue of his imprisonment in the dwarf realm of Svartalfheim, and begs to help save him as to find a way to prevent Ragnarok, to which Kratos begrudgingly agrees. Kratos and Atreus head to Svartalfheim and release Tyr, revealed to have become a pacifist due to his trauma, and then the three head to Alfheim to visit Groa's shrine to better understand the prophecy concerning Ragnarok. Fighting through the elves to reach it, they come across a secret entrance, similar to the one Atreus used to locate Tyr, where they come across an alternative prophecy to Ragnarok, in which only Asgard is destroyed but all other realms survive, led by a champion, which is believed to be Atreus because of his alternative giant name, Loki. Returning home, Atreus and Kratos try discussing the event, but have a fallout as Kratos is resistant of Atreus' supposed destiny. Atreus later falls asleep where he is spirited away to Jotunheim by a giantess, and Groda, who shows him a mural seen only by Kratos and Mimi that seemingly depicts Kratos' death on Ragnarok and Atreus joining Odin, upsetting Atreus. He also learns of the Jotnar's ultimate fate. They abandoned their corporeal forms into spiritual stones to evade Odin's onslaught. Atreus later returns to Midgard and reunites with Kratos, learning that he had been missing for 2 days, straining further their relationship. Kratos and Atreus are attacked by Freya in her Valkyrie form, sparing Kratos as she sees his utility in aiding her in removing the curse that has imprisoned her in Midgard. Both Kratos and Freya travel to Vanaheim to break Freya's curse and meet her brother, Freya. After killing Nidhogg and breaking the curse, Kratos and Freya make amends, with Kratos admitting that while he doesn't regret killing Baldur to save her, he shouldn't have taken her choice to die, and Freya admitting that while she can't forgive Kratos for killing her son, his death would make no difference. Back at the Huldra refuge, Kratos and Atreus have another argument regarding Atreus' recent acts of withholding information and lying to others, which prompts him to run away to Asgard to find a way to prevent his father's death. In Asgard, Atreus has a hostile encounter with Heimdall, which is later stopped by Thor, and Atreus is granted hospitality by Odin, who requests to assist him in finding a way to prevent Ragnarok as well, especially in reassembling an ancient mast to be used in a rift between worlds. Meanwhile, Kratos and Freya, seeking to reclaim Atreus, visit the Norni who tell Kratos that Heimdall will eventually kill Atreus, forcing him to make a new weapon with Brock, the Draupnir spear. Brock discovers, along the way, that he was actually resurrected as a soulless undead, due to a fatal accident Sindri caused ages ago. During one of the missions to search for the mask's pieces, Atreus accidentally releases the giant Garn from Helheim, resulting in the beast tearing holes in the realms, allowing Hellwalkers to wreak havoc. This forces Atreus to reunite and reconcile with Kratos, as both head to Helheim to stop Garn, which Atreus accomplishes by infusing Fenrir's soul, which was residing in Atreus' knife, inside the beast. Along the way, both Kratos and Atreus eventually open up to the findings they've kept secret, allowing them to mend. Back at the refuge, Atreus shares with all others the knowledge of Odin's mask, which Tyr supposes can lead to a source of limitless knowledge that Odin covets. Learning that Freya was captured by the Æsir, Kratos, Atreus and Freya head to rescue him, but Kratos is forced to fight and kill Heimdall when he threatens to kill Atreus, inevitably setting Ragnarok in motion. Knowing of Odin's obsession with the mask and determined to prevent him, Atreus resolves to return to Asgard and finish reassembling it, to which Kratos reluctantly agrees. Atreus is successful, though he's forced to escape when Thor tries to kill Atreus, against Odin's direct order. Returning to the house, Atreus gives the mask to Tyr, who reveals he knows of a secret way to Asgard, about which everyone is surprised and about which Brock is especially suspicious. Brock airs his suspicion that Tyr is deceiving them all. Tyr fatally stabs Brock and exposes himself as Odin in disguise, but he barely escapes without the mask. Eventually galvanized by Brock's death, Atreus and Kratos commit to Ragnarok, and they head out to Muspelheim to seek Surtur, helping him achieve a primordial, destructive form. Reuniting at Tyr's temple in Midgard, with Kratos elected as their general, the United Elves, Vani, and other realms start the siege of Asgard. The Elves and Vani are cut off. Sindri is the only dwarf to join, as he refuses more of his kind to die. Thor's wife and daughter, Sif and Thrud, defect to Atreus' side, and the army are diverted to rescue Midgardian refugees from the uncontrollable Surtur. Kratos and Thor engage once again in battle, in which Kratos talks Thor out of his destructive role, only for Odin to kill Thor for refusing to fight. Odin then engages Kratos, Atreus, Freya, and Mimi, at which point he's overpowered and defeated, and Atreus shatters the mask. As Odin collapses, Atreus traps Odin's soul in a stone, only for a vengeful Sindri to destroy it. As Surtur destroys Asgard, Freya sacrifices himself to allow all others to escape through a rift made by Angrboda. After the siege, Fimbulwinter ends in Midgard. Atreus and Kratos reunite with Angrboda, who shows them a mural concerning Atreus and Kratos' fate, which Kratos' wife and Atreus' mother Laufey deliberately destroyed in order to allow them to make their own fate. Atreus resolves to join Angrboda in her quest to find Warjotnar, and Kratos and his son bid their farewells to each other. Looking further into the shrine, Kratos discovers his newfound purpose in becoming the new All-Father of the Realms, joining Freya and Mimi in their mission to rebuild and restore peace, later finding and freeing the real Tyr, who is alive and imprisoned in Niflheim. Meanwhile, the Æsir relocate to Vanaheim, finally achieving peace with the Vani. Thrud begins wielding Mjolnir in honor of her father, and Kratos, Freya, and Mimi bid farewell to Brok at his funeral in Svartalfheim. Development. A sequel to 2018's God of War was teased at the end of that game. It ended with Ragnarok looming, as well as a secret ending that showed a vision of the Æsir god Thor confronting Kratos and Atreus at the end of Fimbulwinter. Although he did not officially announce a new game at the time, that game's director, Cory Barlog, confirmed that the 2018 installment would not be Kratos' last game, and it was later revealed that future games would continue to be set in the Norse environment and include Atreus. In April 2019, the teaser came in the form of a PlayStation 4 dynamic background theme. The side of Kratos and Atreus both had runes that translated to "Ragnarok is coming." At the same time, in order to celebrate the first anniversary of the previous game's release, Barlog posted a thread of tweets on Twitter with pictures and a statement concerning the development process. Some fans noticed that the first letter of each tweet spelled out, "Ragnarok is coming." During the 2020 PlayStation 5 showcase event on September 16th, a new God of War was officially announced for a 2021 release on the newer console. The short trailer, which had a voiceover by Kratos actor Christopher Judge, did not officially reveal the name of the sequel, but just like the previous teasers, the trailer stated that Ragnarok is coming. This led some sources to believe the title of the game to be God of War, Ragnarok, but at the time, this was not confirmed by Sony. The tagline implied that this would be the start of Ragnarok in the God of War universe, which in Norse mythology is a series of events that bring about the end of days and the deaths of the Norse gods. When the game was first announced in September 2020, it was only announced as a PS5 title. However, after Sony Interactive Entertainment revealed their plans to support their previous console until at least 2022, speculation began on whether the new God of War would see a cross-gen release on the PS4, as some other titles that were originally thought to be PS5 exclusives were also announced to release on PS4. In June 2021, it was confirmed that the game would release on both the PS4 and PS5, in turn marking the first cross-gen release in the series. By February 2021, neither Sony nor the game's developer, Santa Monica Studio, had given any updates regarding the game's release, prompting Barlog to tweet that the game would be out when it's done. In June 2021, head of PlayStation Studios, Hermen Hulst, stated that Sony had decided to delay the game until 2022 to ensure that Santa Monica could deliver on their desired gaming experience for players. Santa Monica Studio issued a statement regarding the game's delay, which said that while they were focused on delivering a top-quality game, they also wanted to maintain the safety of those involved with the development. The game's music composer, Bear McCreary, who also composed the music for the previous game, responded to the news of the delay, saying that it would be worth the wait. Development was partly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as Hulse stated that there were issues getting access to performance capture and talent. The delay also brought a unique issue with Atreus actor Sony Suljic, who was going through puberty during the time of production. His voice had changed a lot, especially during the delay, according to supervising dialogue designer Jody Kupsko, who said, "We had to go in and even out that performance so that in the game, it sounds like it took place over a short period of time." Senior producer Ariel Angelotti said there were no changes to cinematics as a result of the delay, they just had to get creative in how they made the content. In following pandemic guidelines, Angelotti said that they had actors stand in for other characters in some scenes. For example, an actor for a main character would stand in as a background character to be able to avoid a situation where too many people were on set. In a series of tweets posted by Judge in late September, he said that he was the reason that the game was delayed due to surgery he needed in August 2019. Judge said that Santa Monica allowed him time to recover and waited for him to rehabilitate before continuing production. He also revealed that he had briefly quit the game after finding out that Eric Williams would be directing the sequel. Judge was uncertain about Williams, however, Baldur, who served as producer for Ragnarok, was able to convince Judge that Williams was fully capable of directing the game, which Judge affirmed after working with him. During Sony's May 2021 investment filing, they included a title treatment for the game which stated the title as God of War Ragnarok, although the investment filing was later changed to state only God of War. A report found that the logo used in the filing was unofficial and fan-made. Following this, various media outlets were uncertain of the legitimacy of the title of the game. In a statement to IGN, a representative from Sony stated that the game's logo and title were not yet finalized or official, and that the inclusion of the false logo in the investment filing was an error. However, the game's title was in fact confirmed to be God of War Ragnarok, without a colon, during the 2021 PlayStation Showcase event on September 9th. It was also during this event that Eric Williams, who worked on every previous installment, was confirmed as the game's director, continuing the previous era's tradition of having a different director for each game. Williams revealed that Richard Schiff would portray Odin, the king of the Norse gods. Other casting announcements included Ryan Hurst as Thor, the Norse god of thunder, Ben Prendergast as Tyr, the Norse god of war, Leia de Leon Hayes as Angroda, and Usman Ali as Derlin. In addition to Christopher Judge and Sony Suljic returning as Kratos and Atreus, respectively, it was confirmed that Danielle Bisutti and Alistair Duncan would be reprising their respective roles as Freya and Mimi, and that Robert Craighead and Adam J. Harrington would reprise their respective roles as the Huldra brothers, Rock and Sindri. Unlike the popular portrayal of Thor by Chris Hemsworth in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Thor in Ragnarok looks closer to his depiction in Norse mythological literature, having a hefty build with long red hair and beard. After the premiere of the trailer, Alana Pierce confirmed that she was part of the development team. Sam Wancho announced that he would be providing the voice and motion capture for Ratatoska, and worked directly with the writers to write his scenes. A day before release, Scott Porter revealed that he played Heimdall, and the game's music composer, Bear McCreary, was also confirmed to play a dwarf named Ray. Also during the 2021 PlayStation Showcase event, it was confirmed that Ragnarok would conclude the Norse era of the series. The main reason Santa Monica decided to end the Norse era with Ragnarok was due to the game's size and scale. The 2018 installment and Ragnarok each respectively took 5 years to develop, and they did not want to take another 5 years, totaling 15 years, to tell one story. Barlog also compared it to watching the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, stating that being able to condense the story to 2 games was similar to the feeling of watching that trilogy of films, as the consumer would feel they were told a complete story with a definitive beginning and end. Lead writer Rich Galbraith said there were pros and cons to doing a trilogy or ending the Norse era at 2 games. The developers debated on this and said that Ragnarok could have been split into 2 games, as it was much larger in scope than they had originally planned. They also worried if Ragnarok would do the apocalyptic concept justice in just 1 game. This caused some of the team to have concern if the game would be good, as they thought Ragnarok would be 2 games because they were originally in the mindset that the Norse era was going to be a trilogy. The decision to end the Norse era with Ragnarok was ultimately left to Baldur. Both Williams and Baldur had to convince the team that they would be doing Ragnarok as 1 game, and Williams said that although they had to make adjustments for pacing, the story was not scaled back. On July 6, 2022, a new cinematic trailer was unveiled, which confirmed a worldwide release date of November 9, 2022. During Sony's 2022 State of Play event on September 13, a new story trailer was shown, featuring new gameplay and cinematics. Brief glimpses of Odin and a battle with Thor were shown, as well as the giant wolf Skull and Hati, among other returning characters. Just like the 2018 installment, Ragnarok was done in 1 shot. Additionally, the game will support options for players to run the game in either higher resolution or better performance, including 4K resolution at 30 frames per second, 1080p resolution at 60 frames per second, a high frame resolution mode in 4K at 40 frames per second, and a high frame performance mode that syncs to 120 Hz. The latter 2 high frame options are only available for the PS5 version of the game and require monitors with HDMI 2.1. Animation director Bruno Velasquez stated that Santa Monica wanted to ensure that Ragnarok was the best it could possibly be on the PS4, and as such, it does not fully utilize the capabilities of the PS5. Velasquez said that the PS4 version is a visual improvement over the 2018 installment and noted that all of the studio's design goals were achieved on the PS4 version, so the PS5 version is essentially an enhancement of what's already possible on the PS4. The game does, however, include several features exclusive to the PS5 hardware, such as 3D audio, haptic feedback, higher frame rate, and overall better graphics. In terms of design, Velasquez said there were no compromises for the PS4 version and that the game would essentially be the same experience on both consoles. Santa Monica confirmed that the game would have a photo mode, but it would not be available at launch and would instead be added in a post-launch update. On October 7, 2022, Santa Monica announced that the game had gone gold. Additionally, it was revealed that 8 other studios contributed to the development of Ragnarok, including PlayStation Studios Creative Arts, Valkyrie Entertainment, Bluepoint Games, Red Hot, Super Alloy, Jetpack Interactive, Super Genius, and Original Force. The exact contribution from each studio was not detailed, except Super Alloy, which worked on motion capture. Super Alloy specifically assisted with combat choreography, and the studio provided stunt coordination and stunt work for the game and key characters. Eric Jacobus also revealed that he again did the combat motion capture for Kratos, just as he did in the 2018 installment, as well as for some other characters. Pre-release fan backlash. Following the announcement that Ragnarok had been delayed to 2022, Santa Monica's developers received harassment from some fans, including threatening messages. The delay was announced shortly after Alana Pierce joined Santa Monica to work on Ragnarok. Pierce was blamed for the delay and she received threatening messages of sexual harassment. Cory Barlog came to her defense, and all of Santa Monica's developers, stating that he made the call to delay the game and that it had nothing to do with lower-level staff. Furthermore, after a rumor circulated that Santa Monica would reveal the release date towards the end of June 2022, and that date passed, some developers received explicit images from angry fans in an attempt to get them to reveal the release date. Additionally, the reveal that Angroda would be black was controversial to some fans. They claimed that since the game is set in Scandinavia, she should have been white. The developers, however, defended the decision due to the diversity of the dwarfs in the game, among other changes such as Mimi having a Scottish accent, and the fact that the character of Angroda is of a mythological race with the power of transformation. There was also some backlash to the reveal that Ragnarok would be released on both the PS4 and PS5 due to concerns that the PS4 version would hold back the PS5 version. comparing the situation to what happened with 2007's God of War 2, which had released exclusively on the PlayStation 2, although the PlayStation 3 had already been out for a few months. Baldur said that despite not releasing on the newer console at the time, it still worked out well for that game. Soundtrack. God of War Ragnarok original soundtrack was released on November 9, 2022 by Sony Classical Records and was also included in the game's special editions. It was composed by Bear McCreary, returning from the previous game. The soundtrack features Faroese singer Æsir on the tracks God of War Ragnarok, Holding On, Svartalfheim, Pull of the Light, and Remembering Faye. McCreary had previously featured Æsir on the 2018 installment soundtrack. Irish folk artist Æsir is featured on the track, Blood Upon the Snow, which was Æsir's first contribution to a video game soundtrack. Æsir was particularly interested in working on the song as he was a fan of the series and also interested in the maturing medium of digital arts. He was also familiar with McCreary's other works. Due to Æsir being signed with Sony's Columbia Records in the United States, he was approached by Sony to contribute to Ragnarok. To help in composing the song, the game's director Eric Williams talked Æsir through the character arcs of Kratos and Atreus. Æsir was also inspired by nature and the natural world. In working with McCreary, Æsir said they were able to find a balance so that the song was not too elegiac, not too much of an elegy, not too sweet, not too lullaby-esque, not too outrageously doom and gloom, and not too absolutely metal. Paolo Ragusa of Consequence described the song as a daring, cinematic number that hits at all the thematic notes of God of War, Ragnarok, and finds Æsir using his signature velvety tone to evoke both tenderness and awe. Release. God of War Ragnarok was released worldwide on November 9, 2022, for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Players who purchase the PS4 version can upgrade to the PS5 version for $10. In addition to the standard base game, physical and digital, there are 3 special editions: the Jotner Edition, the Collector's Edition, and the Digital Deluxe Edition. There is also a launch edition for players who purchased the game before or at launch, and it includes the Risen Snow Armor and Tunic skins for Kratos and Atreus, respectively. Pre-orders for all versions opened on July 15, 2022. The items in both the Jotner Edition and the Collector's Edition are housed within a box called the Knowledge Keeper's Shrine, a shrine featured in the game. Both editions include a steelbook game case. However, they do not include a physical copy of the game, only digital versions for both platforms. The centerpiece of both editions is a 16-inch replica of Thor's hammer Mjolnir, and both also include 2-inch carvings of Varney twins. Physical items exclusive to the Jotner edition include a 7-inch vinyl record of music by Bear McCreary, pin set of a falcon, bear, and wolf, which represent Kratos' deceased wife Faye, Kratos himself, and Atreus, respectively, a replica Draupnir ring, Brock's dice set, and a Yggdrasil cloth map which shows each of the 9 realms. Instead of Brock's dice set, the Collector's Edition has a Dwarven dice set. The Digital Deluxe Edition includes the Darkdale armor and weapon skins for Kratos and Atreus, the official God of War Ragnarok soundtrack, a mini art book by Dark Horse Comics, a PlayStation Network avatar set, and a PS4 background theme. All of this downloadable content is also included with both physical special editions. Available separately is a limited edition Ragnarok-themed DualSense controller for the PS5. There is also a PS5 bundle that includes the console, disc version, a regular DualSense controller, and the standard version of the game.